Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back. This is the F1000 podcast. I'm Chaps. I'm here again with Mike, and we're back again to bet $1,000 on today's Mexican Grand Prix. Okay, Mike. I mean, we were just talking about it before we hit record. This is going to be a tough race. We like to start with the teams. Let's get right into it, dude. We're gonna get right into the team chat. I think we have to start at the top. I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think about Ferrari? Do you have thoughts?
I think that it is more likely they end up lower down the order for a few reasons. So the first is the reason that they qualified 1-2 is not because they have the best car for this track. It's actually, in a lot of ways, not a great car for this track. I mean, the straights, we know that they're going to probably do well on to hold off overtaking, but that's almost about it. They didn't look good in the slow corners at all through the practice sessions on the weekend, and I think you have to establish first how did they finish 1-2 in qualifying is the biggest question, and that looks like it came down to ambient temperature of the track, and like a change between the limitation of the track just in the window in Q3, essentially. Like, it looked like with temperatures dropping, they just happened to get the C5s, the compounds, in the right working window to put down good quality laps at the beginning of the Q3 session. And we know the car is good over one lap anyway, right? So
right.
I think you just chalk it up to that. I don't know if you can really assume though that they're going to finish ahead of the other big three, essentially. There's no way.
Yeah, it's a crazy phenomenon. I mean, they were talking about it on the broadcast. They basically had a 5-minute window where the temperature dropped and it turned. I didn't know this was a thing, but I guess at a certain temperature, the tires can have a rear limitation on the car. But then as soon as it drops or heats up, I don't have a full grasp on it. I think it was heating up, and then it turned into a front limitation on the car, which suited the Ferraris, and then they both just nailed it literally in that 5 minutes where the ambient temperature suited their window. Because when they tried to do it on their second run, they were nowhere close. No one was close. So I don't know. I mean, even coming into this week, when we did the track breakdown, I kind of alluded, hey, Ferrari might struggle with their power unit. We're so high up on the altitude, and then they did have issues in the practice sessions.
Yeah, but it didn't look like that was hydraulic, I think, related. It wasn't power unit related, and it looked like so. I'll give them. Leclerc was talking about it during this week. He seemed fairly confident that the issues. So last year they had this big problem where they had to run the power unit at below its maximum capability because of
they were running it at like 75-80%.
Because of the cooling issues. But it looks like they've addressed. They seem confident that they've addressed those issues, and it looks like theoretically that they have. Now, you haven't seen them over 70 laps. I mean that over the practice sessions they didn't have a problem. Over 70 laps in one race, maybe that becomes problematic. So that's almost, in a way, another reason to potentially fade them from their position at the top of the grid. Possibly, right? There's a lower percentage chance, but it exists. The only thing I'll say there, though, is the trend with Ferrari over 53 to 72 laps lately has been that they are going to survive with their tires and their engine. I mean, they're not really... Yeah.
They're trending in the reliability direction. They're not having the issues that they were having last year when we came to Mexico. I'm very confused. I got to be honest with you. I'm very confused with Ferrari. They popped up on one great lap, but I don't think we can rely on them being unreliable. Like I'm not betting on Sainz's engine to blow up this year.
Okay, so I guess you have to take a stance. Are you actively fading them? Are you betting around them, or are you betting on them? And I think we're in agreement. Like, I don't think that there's value. I have to look like in more detail, but right away I look at a match bet. Like, is there value in betting on them to maintain these grid positions? Like, it would be very difficult. So they don't look good in terms of projected race pace. Like, good is like relative to Red Bull a lot of the time.
Right.
They look comparable, I guess, to Mercedes and McLaren. Probably a little bit slower because they're struggling so much in the slow speed stuff, but then you've got this. It's a difficult track to overtake on, right? I mean, really, there's not a lot of opportunities like going into turn one,
Except for turn
essentially
one.
off the straight. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that might allow them to survive at the top of the grid for a longer period of time than maybe they would at a different track that overtaking is a little bit easier on.
I mean, I don't think they're going to hold off Max over the course of a race. We keep seeing
No.
like that's not going to happen. The question
No.
is, and they are favored to beat Mercedes.
Yeah,
I think that's what it comes down to. Over the course of this race, Ricardo gets out of the way.
Yeah,
Now, it's nice that Checo's there effectively right behind Max. So it's how far do the Ferraris fall? That's why I started with them, because they are the most confusing. Like, I think Max climbs. I don't really know if Sergio is going to climb or not. I don't think this is a guaranteed 1-2 Red Bull.
I kind of like the fact. So if you're looking for a reason to maybe make that Mercedes bet, which is like that's a tough. Like you got Lewis Hamilton in 6 and George Russell in 8, and you've got both Ferraris 1-2. Like you don't even really get enough value at plus 100 to take Mercedes. To be honest, like that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I think we need to just keep exploring to see if there's something else, because I like that so it's low dag, which means it's probably, I think traditionally has been a one stopper, but it looked like the tires, because they brought, I think it was C2 to C4 last year, they brought C3 to C5 this year. So there's like the chance that it does become a two stopper depending on ambient track temperature, so like if there's any sort of potential strategy concern that comes up where you have to jump between a decision of one stop or two stop, like look what just happened to Leclerc. Like they made the wrong decision for him ultimately in the end. So that exists also
disqualified because he's not in form.
Shut up. Honestly, if they had put him, like, think about that, chaps. Had they put him just on a regular two stopper like everybody else, would he have finished ahead of Carlos Sainz? Obviously, because he's in form.
Dude, pre-race, his interview, his only comment was, "Well, we know what to do with the strategy."
Do we?
They asked him, they're like, "How are you feeling?" He's like, "Well, we know what we have to do, so it's about the strategy now." And then that was their strategy.
Yeah.
They tried to change it with 5 laps left. No, I can't pit now. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Fuck, man. Honest to God.
The other thing with the Mercedes, too, is Lewis looked great on the mediums. In Q2, he topped the charts, right, on the medium?
He did, yeah.
So, like, Ferrari's not going to have a 5-minute window for 2 hours.
No. It's actually, so the race tire on a one-stopper is going to be medium hard, obviously. So, unless there's a reason to make it a two-stopper, which theoretically Mercedes can probably, with their advantage on tire deg, they should, if there has to be a decision to be made between is it a one or a two stopper, Mercedes is probably going to be able to make it a one stopper along with Red Bull, right? And then the Ferraris and potentially the McLarens are going to have to make it two if it becomes a decision point, which I guess we're not sure yet.
Well, to be fair, Leclerc held off Russell last week, too, even though he was on the wrong tire. This was 10 races ago. He probably doesn't have the tire management to hold him off.
Yeah.
But one more lap, George gets him.
He had a fuel issue, right? He was low. He had to lift and coast a bunch. Like that, they had underfueled significantly, and I think that was part of the reason why you weren't seeing him take those big chunks out at the end of the race, because he was having to lift and coast. So that, obviously that can happen. On pure performance, I think Leclerc would have gotten gobbled up by Russell probably three or four laps before the end of the race, it seemed like, which would have been great for us, but obviously that doesn't happen, right?
No, it was still exciting to watch at the end. Albert has race pace from the simulator. He's got Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari. Then
I think everybody's seeing it that way. Yeah, which makes sense because again, although Ferrari looks comparable to McLaren and Mercedes, obviously they have the straight line speed, and they look okay in the high speed and the medium speed stuff. They're just like so bad in the low speed stuff.
Mm-hmm. Do you see, before we move off Ferrari then, do you see them in the top 6? Like, is that worth looking at? Or, I mean, you can tell me right now if you're absolutely no two-car bets, because we got beat up on a couple of them last week. Well, I don't think that means we avoid them completely.
No.
We're not going to be on 2 again.
No, I think that's
having 2 of them is too much risk.
Having 2 is too much risk, but having one that we like and then a way that we can cover off if something goes wrong, I think is advantageous. But what there has to be, I guess, if I look at it like there has to be, is there value? What do you see it in a 2-car bet that you like?
Top 6. But this is probably going to ruin my whole argument, but they have a fade side of it. A lot of times they don't do fades on the top 6 bets or the top 10 bets.
I was looking at that too, yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of interested in I'm interested in both, which probably means we shouldn't be on it. But the thing is, if they don't crash, I mean, a single DNF, then sure, no, is that you get so much extra value because you get a DNF involved in a no in the fade.
Yeah.
But if they don't DNF, they're probably top 6, right? Like they're starting 1-2.
Yeah, they almost assuredly are going to finish in the top. One of them
with
is
Lando in 19. That's a big.
That's
part
the problem.
Like Lando's
right?
not 3. No, like I don't know if Lando. I don't know. He's plus money, I think, to get into the top 6, which I don't want to look at. I'm just saying he's kind of out of the way for these 2 Ferraris to stay up there now. Ricardo's out of the. He's not going to be top 6.
If you think it's like Max, Checo, Hamilton, Piastri, Russell.
So Oscar gets in. So it comes down to Russell versus one of the Ferraris again. With that,
Yeah.
with a lot. This is more grid positions to make up.
Yeah, there's just no like. I mean,
I don't know.
That seemed like it was only possible in Austin because of how easy overtake. Like we're going literally from like a track that has a ton of opportunities for overtaking to just really none. Right? There's just no. I think. Man, I don't know. It's gonna be difficult to see. I think a lot of movement unless somebody makes a really big mistake from like a driving from a racecraft or from a strategy perspective. Like that's. How else do you see like 3 or 4 or 5 grid spot movements in this race? I don't know.
I don't. The way Sector 3 goes through that stadium, those last couple of corners, you can, if you're the leading car, you can kind of miss the apex. There's nowhere the guy can go. He just has to slow down, and now you're both slow coming out of the exit. So unless you have an inherent power advantage for that massive straight into turn 1, which the Ferrari might have over the Mercedes. If there's a difference to the 2 cars, Mercedes is probably a little draggier in a straight line.
I know, but the craziest thing is then you have to factor in the fact that you've got like the lower atmospheric pressure, which is reducing the drag effect on the car, which means that theoretically, I know it's relative to some degree, but
does
it might
the fact
not be
that they're
perfectly relative.
Does the fact that they're all bringing big rear wings, does that neutralize? Now it is just a normal ground effect. Because they're all just the extra rear wing. Just that means like it's like a normal. I don't know. I'm so stupid with this stuff. It's like a normal amount of force downward. There's less oxygen, but they're bringing an extra wing from what's required for the track, so they kind of it's a normal track now.
Well, I guess like you're
saying,
do they maintain relative? Do they maintain a relative? Is there maintaining a relative advantage over the Mercedes in terms of its straight line speed? Like I'm not completely sure. I would imagine again it's probably still like advantage Ferrari on that straight. Can they make a pass and overtake? There's just so many other factors that could influence what when would that opportunity come up? The question would be like, can Russell end up overtaking one of these 2 cars? I don't even know if he could.
Right.
I don't know if he could. Again, unless there's some huge issue with racecraft or strategy or reliability, which 2 of those 3 are Ferrari, right? They're it's possible, right?
I came into the week being concerned about the Ferrari. I know they didn't have power unit issue, but the Ferrari power unit, then they had an issue in practice. And then is that the team we want to be on with 2 cars? I don't know. We took the reliable McLaren last week, and Oscar just retires. So
there's nothing you can do. If you make a 2-car bet, you just have to live with the result. It is what it is. It seems, even though they don't. The problem with I think taking those bets is that they don't. The way that they set the odds is they don't bake in enough of the risk when they set the odds. Like it should be, in theory, they should be longer because of. But that's how they get you, really, ultimately in the end.
But if you look at single car top 6, like single driver top 10
no value.
Points,
There isn't.
The odds are so long. So maybe if those are the odds that they think they should be, we think they're too long or too short. Then maybe maybe they have baked in risk into the 2-car bets. We still think they're too short, but they're not minus 450.
Yeah, I guess that's my problem is that there's not enough of that baked in. We're gonna have to get really creative.
Did you
to find
see?
something here?
Yeah. Did you see any other team? Like, should I even star? I've written it down. I think yes for top 6, right? Minus 150.
For the two Ferraris?
That's way more likely than fading them.
It's way more likely than fading them, but I don't like that bet. Let's just
Yeah,
be clear.
yeah, okay.
Like I don't like that bet. I don't like that bet at all. Like I would rather just not bet.
The Mercs are minus 120 both ways.
Man, we're gonna
for
have
and
to
against.
find. I know we're gonna have to find something. We're gonna have to find some really interesting bets in this race.
I have some stuff once we move on from teams, but I didn't really have a whole lot of team stuff. There's only 3 matchups to choose from.
So the only 2-car bet that I made a note of that I actually like is, it seems relatively simple, is just the 2 Red Bulls on the podium at minus 138. So that's interesting. Again, like I said, I'm not a huge fan. I'd much rather bet on Checo to get a podium, which I think he's with 2 of the last races here, him being on the podium. He's perfectly capable of doing it. He's never had a better car coming in here. He didn't have a bad qualifying session. Like, again, relative, because you always have you have to benchmark him against Max, though, right? And you benchmark him against Max. What was he, 2/10 off, or?
Yeah.
So
2.5 tenths. But everyone in the world is benchmarking him against Daniel Ricciardo, who starts ahead of him tomorrow.
No, I know. That's
in an AlphaTauri.
That's okay, but there is a, for the same reason that Ferrari succeeded and Williams failed, like so dramatically based on what we had seen, it advantaged AlphaTauri in the same type of way for Danny. Good for Daniel Ricciardo for putting in a really great lap.
Yeah.
Right, but he had that like monster sector 1 because the balance shifted so significantly to his advantage, and then he was kind of like pedestrian through the rest of the lap, but it ended up netting him 4th ultimately in the end. So I'm not like, I think that's a really interesting flashpoint, but realistically over the course of a race, what is Danny going to do one spot ahead of, right? So Checo's got to pick off Ricciardo and then one of the Ferraris to get a podium, which, I mean, who knows how they're going to disadvantage themselves tomorrow or today. Like, realistically, it should probably happen. At minus 138, of all the 2-car bets, I think that's probably my favorite one. Unless you think Checo's going to flame out like massively and somehow not make it on the podium in this race, which is, I mean, given his form.
The fact that it's Mexico, like I want to, do I want him to do well tomorrow? Is that more what I'm feeling? I don't know.
It's today.
I think he's going to have a good race
tomorrow. It's today.
Today.
It's today. Yeah.
Fuck's sakes. Hey, I get in a routine today.
I know. I get it. So, okay, let's consider that, because I have no reason. He looked good he looked really good in the the practice sessions. I think he did what he should do in qualifying, which was be 2/10 off Max.
Mm-hmm.
So like in terms of his lead up to the race, it's been better than we've seen probably at any point in the last, like, since the break, I feel like. He just had a quiet 3 practice sessions. He was within the 2 to 3 tenths that he needs to be within Max in qualifying. That this is one of the first times that he's had just a quiet weekend, which should generally net out a strong performance from a race pace side.
And do you think it's worth giving up? Do you think it's worth taking the extra 40 points for both, to have both of them there? Like, is something going to happen to Max? Because it's minus 175 for just Checo. 40 points.
Let's make a note of that. I mean, that's interesting.
It might be just the smarter play, or are we going to look back and be like, wow, we could have just had an extra $40 or $80 if we have 200 on it? But even still, is $80 going to make a big difference to our performance? Not really.
I always tend to gravitate toward exactly what you're thinking, and then sometimes I feel like we just need to change that mindset. Sometimes I think we just need to be like, if you think it's going to happen, like, just go. Like, there's so many times where we pick something because we think it's going to happen, but we play it conservatively, and then worst case scenario happens.
We see cars in the top 6, but we take them in the top 10, and then they're like 3 and 4.
And you just like, if the one thing that we just need to get, if we can get extra value from getting Max to be on the podium, like, fuck it, we might as well just take Max to be on the podium. really. And then if
Okay.
something
I
happens
like-
to him,
I
you go,
like that.
wow. Yeah. You just take what they give you.
I think I like that better than choosing the
I like the-
Ferraris either way.
And
Just
I
both
think I
Red
like
Bulls
that
on the podium.
better than trying to benchmark the Mercedes against any of those other top, well, against the Ferrari, obviously, right?
Yeah, there's no value to go against the Red Bull. And
Man,
there's no
I
value
so
to pick
Checo,
Red
like
Bull over
Checo
any
had
team.
Checo had long, like when Checo was on the mediums, he was like really good. Like he was doing FP2. His long run on the mediums was, I think it was actually faster than, I don't know. You never know what the fuel situation looks like, but it looked like it was actually faster than Max's. Like I'm quite confident that he, like unless something happens, I'm confident that he's going to be on the podium. So that like that's a pretty. We might want to start looking into. Maybe we look into some forecast shit, dude. Like we could. Maybe we try to
Just
win
pick
some
the
money.
third
I don't
driver
know.
or the 1-2. Yeah, well, yeah. Okay, so if we're saying they're both on the podium,
Yeah.
yeah, let's see, to your point that you just made, like, let's get the longest value that we can if we're seeing them both on the podium. What's the 1-2? What's the
Yeah, like
Straight
is this
forecast?
the time? Is this the time for us to
plus 200 for them to just be
Yeah.
1-2? In order, though. That's in order.
What's the? There's no point. What's
Max
the only?
Checo.
Yeah, but what's the? Not the straight forecast, the combo forecast,
Yeah, dual forecast.
the dual
Plus
forecast.
150. Yeah, 50 points. You take, just in case they're like, Checo, you can finally win at home.
That's what. Normally, I would be like, "There's no risk at all."
He's our
But-
both championships locked up.
That's what I mean. Like this is the one time where they
Yeah.
could actually favor Checo inherently because of the situation.
Right.
I can't see Max ever being okay with it, but still, just it's possible. Like given the
It's not
circumstances.
even Max, man. It's Helmut Marko.
I know,
He's the
he's
one that's like, no, absolutely no way is Checo winning in Mexico.
Yeah, he's fucked.
Max, get your bodyguards. Okay. Max and Checo. Plus 150.
Okay, so
I think let's start getting into drivers. Like, was there any other teams?
Yeah,
I didn't
well,
see
can-
any other team.
Can I just so Max?
Yeah, okay.
We always write a bet down and then we look at all the different iterations of it. So Max and Checo is what plus 150.
Plus 150.
So without Max for Checo to come in second is plus 137. Let's just take that.
Because we're saying they're top two.
Yeah. So then if Checo wins,
And that's
we
effectively
get
the
that.
same thing.
Yeah, and we lose 13 points on it. So that's the bet to make. I think in the end.
We're not missing anything there.
No, in terms of how the prop is set up.
If
No.
they're both going to be 1-2, and then Checo without Max. Yeah.
It's just one
Okay.
of those weird things, like the, you know.
What's
what
the
I mean?
line?
Plus 137.
That's a great catch. Oh, well, it's plus 150 for Max and Checo.
That's what I mean. So it's 13 points to not have to worry about Max Verstappen, essentially. Like, just you lose 13 points of value, and if Max does blow up or crash, then Checo's going to be.
Oh, right, and Checo still wins
Like
the
we think
race.
we think Checo comes in second, right? But if he comes in first in the straight forecast, we lose, which would be horrible. You actually get the 40 points delta becomes 13-point delta, and that's more reasonable for us to take, right? The more conservative side. So let's just do that.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're missing something, but
I don't think we are. I think it's always set up like in a weird way,
Checo without Max. Yeah.
right? It's always set up in a weird way.
Leclerc can't win. And that's a 1-2 dual forecast, not both on the podium. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
All right.
Okay, let the individual drivers here.
Yeah, let's do some drivers.
Okay.
I got some those are weeds. I mean, there was one driver points finish that kind of stood out to me, but I think I know how you're going to react because you like a different car, I think. But I was looking at Albon to be in the points.
Yeah. What's
Why I
that?
liked it was the Alpine was fast all week, and then he's not in Q3 because of track limits, which that can go either way. Okay, did he cheat, and that's the only reason he put the nice time on the board, or is that a time that you can repeat in the race, and that's his race pace, and he just got unlucky, so Zhou squeaked in past him. He starts in 14th, so he's got some spots to make up. Hulk is going to crash or just fall backwards.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's been getting the better of Alonso lately.
I am actually I think that's a really savvy bet. Like
Plus 137.
you're kind of capitalizing on the fact that he had that. Well, again, the same for the same reason that Ferrari were massively advantaged in that weird window in Q3. Williams had the exact opposite effect on their car. Right, they were
Right.
the ones that got caught out by the change in essentially in limitation, and so it would be prudent for us to look at it and say, yeah, he's probably going to replicate the long run pace that he showed. So he was like, I don't know, less than 2/10. So remember when I said Checo was like faster than Max on his long run pace on the mediums, which is really bodes really extremely well for him because that's going to be an important tire, probably first stint. He like Albon was like 1 or 2 tenths slower than Checo, which is like he's right there.
For like right there, yeah.
Right, he's right there on the long run pace, which is sometimes. Well, no, the long run pace seems to come to Williams too. So, I think that's an interesting bet. I'm very interested in that. For an individual driver to get all of those positions available to them is, we usually don't find good value on the single driver points bets actually, and that might be one that we need to look at. I'm not really worried about Alonso. I'm not really worried about Alonso. I'm not worried about Hulkenberg, like you said. I think the problem is going to be those Alfa Romeos, and
those Alfa Romeos, and then does Ricardo fall all the way behind Albon?
I know, honestly, which sucks.
Because Ricardo could stay in the 10th too.
Yeah, I feel like Ricardo's just going to like have an accident or something. I feel like this guy is just going to get the worst possible luck.
I've got an interesting weeds bet for you.
Okay, we're going to look into that then. Let's.
We're not there
okay,
yet.
So,
we're not there yet.
Mark down Williams. I am interested in Williams, for sure.
Okay.
Right.
Like in terms of the bookmaker,
yeah,
Lando's minus 250 to be in the points, which is probably I don't love the line, but it probably happens. That's crazy though. From 19th, Ricardo's minus 163, Gasly's even money, Alonso's plus 125, and then Albon. Just in terms of like where they see the likeliness. But I think I like him better than Alonso. And like, where's Gasly? Gasly's there at 11th.
Situationally, I like the fact that we talked about. It's that long run down to turn one on the straight, and it's just like the Williams is he's gonna be slippery. He's gonna fly, and he probably will have an opportunity to make some overtakes on that straight, and then it's just whether or not. And he is. How many times has he been a cork? A lot, right? So if he keeps people
he might
behind
cork
him,
Lando.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like Lando could get stuck behind him, and that might be a spot that Albon ends up keeping. Like maybe that's the 10 ultimately in the end. He's 10 and he holds on.
And if we're talking again, we're talking a track that's tough to pass, and the only pass is potentially into turn one, while Albon's got that straight line speed. Like who's gonna get a run onto him?
Yeah,
into turn one.
That's so good.
Okay, I got a star on it.
Okay.
The only other things I wrote down I would consider weeds. So let's do some looking here. We do groups in with that's drivers, right?
Yeah. Is it conceivable that Leclerc doesn't end up on the podium? I mean, I think it is conceivable because
he's not in form.
Shut up. There's 2 spots that we think are shut up, dude. Is Lewis Hamilton a threat for a podium? I guess is my question ultimately. Like over. No, this bet just becomes feeding the Ferraris if you do that. It doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to. I don't know. I can easily see one of these Ferraris staying on the podium.
Yeah, you might as well just take that bet where it's the top two finish for plus 120. Okay, you might as well take that fade on the top 6 for the 2 Ferraris in the end. I think. Like I was looking at maybe he doesn't end up on the podium. You might as well be like they don't end up in the top 6 because something kind of has to happen to them in order for that to happen.
Right.
What about any fades?
They
have
a lot of spots in the top 6.
Is there any fades for points that you like?
Do they let you do that? Points?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
they do. Yeah. Max Verstappen.
Yeah, plus 700. He's just not going to get it.
Well, how about Ricardo? Plus 120.
He's only plus 120 and he starts in 4th. I mean, that's not great value at all. You probably have a weeds bet that is longer and that is more interesting.
No, actually, it's a minus money. My weeds bet
is it
Ricardo.
Okay, so pay attention to that then. Maybe that's an interesting way to fade him if you want to. I wish I could get like I would love to fade Gasly with the minus 138, but like I have no idea what I'm going to see from the Alpine.
That's the
Like,
thing with Alpine, man.
I have no idea. I don't even know what they're good at. What are they good at?
They're not good at anything, but I don't even know what they're typically bad at anymore. They just crash into each other. Actually, you know what? If there's one power unit that might have issues, I could see the Alpine blowing up tomorrow. Just
I
Ocon
agree.
in a puff of smoke, pulls over, parks it on a straight, so we need a red flag.
Minus 138 for Gasly not to be. Okay, I mean, I don't love anything. I actually, the one thing that I do like is, well, how about this? Buddy, Bottas with a plus 175 for the points finish. You don't want to double
I know.
down
What
on
did
my
you get
hot
it
pick?
on? No, but what did you get your hot pick at?
I think it was minus 170. I think it was plus 175 as well.
Well, he starts in ninth. He might hold on
Yeah.
to it. That's what I like about the Albon, because he probably gets Joe. Hopefully. And Ricardo. If Lando squeaks in, then we need him to get two of them. I still like Albon.
I still like the album bet too.
But I don't think it makes sense to have Albon and Bottas. And,
No,
and
we
it
already
doesn't
have-
make sense to fade. Yeah.
We already have a Bottas bet.
We're kind of touching on that now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about? Okay, let's look at. I just want to look at the race match bets. Okay, so. Tire Science minus 250. Stroll.
Like, that's the only one that I would look at.
There's nothing really here.
But I think you'd be too scared to do that because you just think Leclerc's in form.
I would never. I wouldn't take him to beat. I would not take Science to beat Leclerc. No.
I know
Not
you
a
wouldn't.
chance.
Sainz
I
is
wouldn't.
he's in such good form.
I wouldn't do it. Minus.
That's why I didn't even suggest it. I wouldn't disrespect you that way.
That is some disrespect, though.
Plus 175
Actually,
for something.
what
that's
I
gonna
would
happen.
like minus 225 for Bottas to stay ahead of Joe would be. I'm interested in that, but
Minus 225?
oh yeah,
No.
it's fine.
That's so long. Short?
Yeah, I know. Which one is it?
Alfa Romeo? No, thank you. No, thank you. No, it's both every time.
It's both every time.
I just say both, and then I'm right. At the least, yeah.
Yeah, you
Broken
can't
clocks
argue with
right
that
twice a
logic.
day.
Okay, what's the combination podium finishes here? Oh, there's just like nothing. I love it. They have no idea what's going to happen. Sainz
Yeah.
and Max is a fade. Leclerc and
But they
Max
don't
is
give
a
you
fade.
Signs and Charles. I
No, of
came in
course
here
they
looking
don't.
for Signs and Charles.
Of course they don't. And Perez. Like the most interesting one to me, it's just impossible to figure this out. So they're giving you even money on Lewis versus Leclerc with Checo on the podium, and that would be the one that would be most interesting to me.
I see that.
So like, okay, so what?
But now we're back to picking the Ferrari versus the Mercedes.
I know, but at least it's plus 200 at that point.
No, this is minus 150. You want to fade one of them.
No, I want.
Oh, you're saying Checo's
I
on.
wanna take him.
Oh, I'm looking at
Yeah.
a different line. I see.
No. Checo on there. It's like is Checo sharing it with Leclerc or is Checo
you wanna
sharing it
take
with
them?
Hamilton? Plus 200.
I thought you were looking at Leclerc and Max or Max and Lewis, and then fading.
So
those.
who is it? Like it's not because there's no Checo and Sainz, right? Yeah. No, there is. There's a Checo and Sainz at plus 450.
That could be an interesting flyer.
That's an interesting flyer, actually. Because then you get your guy. There's
We could
just no
still
way
get
that
Checo.
I just can't see. Like how is
There's not no
Leclerc-
way. You can't see it. Watch last race. Watch 2
I
races
know.
ago.
It
Watch
happened.
3 races
It happened.
ago.
It happened. I mean, it's okay.
You just
Maybe Mark.
the
that-
whole
that's
world
an
thinks
interest-
Leclerc's just this superstar. I do too, but Sainz is good. though, is all I'm
You're
saying.
he is good. I'm not saying he's not good. He's a very good driver. He's a very capable driver. He's excellent. He's just not like if his. I talked about this on the. Was it our last show? No, the 2 shows before. That the car just ever since they brought the new floor in Suzuka, the car has moved back towards Leclerc in terms of it being more like oversteer bias, right? So it just
You
makes
say
it
that,
a little bit.
But then we
It does.
see Sainz performing.
But we see Leclerc performing too. He keeps beating him over one lap, and theoretically has better race pace, like way better race pace than him, and just keeps getting fucked over by his team.
Leclerc's a Saturday driver. He's great at getting pole. He's
True.
only converted 4 of them.
That's very
He's
true.
only converted 4 of them. We bet on
Yeah.
Sundays, Mike.
I get that.
I'm just saying. You know what's an interesting theory I'm just thinking about right now? What if Red Bull has stopped... They've stopped developing this year's car, so they've stopped moving it towards Max and away from Checo, and they're like, hey, this is the car for the next 5 races, so just learn it, and maybe he's finding some form.
I think that could be part of it too, right? Like he's been struggling. It seems like he's always behind the 8 ball with setup, and I think this is probably one of those weeks where, and you could be right bang on, like he finally gets to catch up with the car because it's not constantly a moving target for him. He's not as adaptable as Max. Let's be honest. Like we know that he's not a world class.
He comes in for coffee on Tuesdays, like,
yeah.
Okay, guys, I finally got used to that.
It's a totally different car. Yeah.
I'm feeling good. Yeah. And they're like, Checo, oh, we've got this new chassis that we're bringing this week.
It's even pointier now. Sorry.
Okay, finding value, Sainz and Checo, plus 450. Yep. Max, Sainz, and Checo is plus 800.
Yeah. Okay. Mark it down.
Or is that too much? Are we like, we still have the Checo without Max? Is that too much now?
It might be. If we can move in a different direction, then I would be interested in doing that. I'm in the group. I'm looking at the group betting right now.
Okay.
Sainz, Russell, Piastri, Ricardo.
Yeah. I think if we're gonna take a stab at where does Ferrari finish in this race, I like it as a long shot, as a flyer. Like this comes back to, and now you've got Piastri's right there. He's ahead of Russell.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, Oscar could just pass these 2 Ferraris. But if
really
we're saying, hey, Ferrari holds onto a podium, let's make it a flyer. Does that make sense? Instead of a minus 150.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Lando minus 200 to win his group. And he probably does, but that's crazy.
Lando minus
He's
200?
in 19th. Alonso's 13, Albon's 14, Bottas is 9th.
There's just no way that he doesn't, though, unless like something happens, right? There's no way that he doesn't beat those cars. Like he's... unless he gets stuck behind Albon. That's what we talked about. It's possible, really. In the end, he could.
We have seen it.
It just. I think the hardest data point for me to reconcile is understanding how valuable track position is on different tracks. Right, like that. That's still very much a learning process. I think for us, like we kind of got. Like, you know that about Singapore, and then you see the race happen, and you're like, fuck, like, it is just, there's just nothing you can do. If you dictate the pace, I'm trying to think back to the last 2 races here, and I understand that it's difficult to overtake, and it's just like, is it so difficult to overtake that if you're starting in 18th with race pace that's probably next best to Red Bull, like, are you going to be able to come through? You have to have an incredible drive to do that, in theory. To make up that many good positions when you're really only getting one chance every couple of laps in turn 1, essentially, to make the overtake happen.
If everything's perfect and you can follow.
Right.
Mexico's in the bottom half of overtakes per race. It's about
20, makes sense.
19.
Yeah. Which makes total sense. Like, just based on how it's set up.
Brazil's number 1.
Brazil would be number. Yeah,
I don't love it at minus 200 for him to have. He has to get 10 grid places.
No, neither do I.
He probably does it for the record, but I just don't love the line. That's too much.
So chaps, think about this. You get plus 137 for Albon. Like, is that the bet? Are you just like, we think Albon is getting
because Lando. No, because Lando is going to win that group, and he might finish 7th or 6th. But Albon can squeak into 10th, and I like the 137.
Yeah, okay. I got you. Okay, you think
that's an Albon in 9th or 10th bet?
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense.
I just don't want to have to put $400 down on Lando to actually do that. That's so much risk to get any value out of it.
Okay, you know what? Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make a decision, and you just have to agree. You have to agree with me. Because I was going back and forth. Well, you have to agree or disagree. Sorry, you don't have to agree with me.
I have to take a stance. I see. Okay.
You have to take a stance, yeah. So, like, I think Lewis Hamilton is going to just get on the podium. So what can we do with that? Like, Lewis Hamilton is starting in 6th. The guy is, he's in form. Like, he is in form right now. They won't have any weird issues with ride height. They didn't look particularly quick for a number of reasons. I think the most promising was again, this is Andrew Shovlin, like, pretty well comes out and plays it pretty straight when they run their test runs, their long runs in FP2. They looked good. They looked quick. They're going to be taking care of the tires like they normally do. Lewis is in, I think, an advantageous position to get like 6 to 1 and 2. I get is very difficult here, but I can see the same thing kind of happening again that happened last race, and it's just I don't know what's going to keep the Ferrari up there ultimately once we get into the second stint here. Like, I think we know that floor is worth probably 2 tenths or 3 tenths. I think he's going to get on.
He's plus 110 to get on his own.
Yeah. What's that combo
Max,
with Checo?
With Checo. Interesting. I didn't look at that. Let's see here. Checo and Lewis is plus 200. Combination podium. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which is like, that's a little bit too much of... You can't do that because you can't double dip on Checo if we're going to be taking him without Max. So you can't do that. Is there...
The combination TriCast, unless we just replace that and go like... But even that, Max, Checo, and Lewis is plus 333. That's not a lot of value.
No, it's not enough value. But I don't know if that allows us to take a more refined stance. Like, if
you could go Mercedes over Ferrari.
At plus 100, I mean, again, I don't know if that's like enough value.
Minus 110.
All I'm doing is taking Lewis to finish ahead of 2 cars, which is not... That's not the situation you want to be in. I think he's going to be there. I don't know. I was hoping that would provide us with a little bit more clarity in what we choose, but...
So right now I've got Albon in the points, Checo without Max, and then we threw down some potential podiums that had signs on them. But you're saying you'd rather have Lewis on that podium?
I think that's my point. Is that like that seems, it doesn't seem realistic to me.
There's just way less value, which you're feeling that way. You think it's more likely that Lewis is there. I don't disagree, but I don't know if I agree.
Like, you don't disagree, but you don't know if you agree. Okay.
Lewis is on the better starting side. Oh no, he's on the bad side. Never mind.
No, he's on the bad side. Yeah, he's on the even side.
On the dirty side. Yeah.
Plus 275 for Lewis to finish in 3rd.
That's interesting. Plus 275
for Lewis to finish in 3rd.
Exactly 3rd.
Yeah.
Then if he finishes 2nd, we lose 2 bets.
If he finishes 2nd, we lose...
Like if it's Max, Lewis, Checo.
Yeah.
Yeah, in theory.
Right. But we have to we have to make a decision. Like, what is he going to beat Checo? I guess is the question. Like, we don't even know if he's going to be on the podium. Is he going to beat Checo? I don't...
They're just one spot apart.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to beat Checo. He could. He could beat Checo. I mean, he did it last week.
Yeah.
He did it last week. He did it
easily. More and more confused.
Week.
Yeah, and he set up. He looks good on the mediums.
Man, this is hard.
Is this going to end Max Lewis or Max Checo Lewis? Is that what we're seeing?
I mean,
it's just there's probably 2 Ferraris.
That's the most likely outcome based on what the You said you looked at the combo TriCast, and that was the max.
No, most likely has
Leclerc. Which is, you have to.
It's marginal, 300 to 333.
Yeah, the guy's on pole.
Right. But all of these say Checo's coming up, or Max Checo Lewis, or sorry, Max Charles Lewis. But I don't think. I mean, we're not going to hedge ourselves. What was the Red Bull? Oh yeah, minus 138. I might be going backwards to just both Red Bulls on the podium instead of Checo without Max.
Why though? Just get the extra position? Yeah, we could do that.
Just saying they're saying that Charles or Lewis is up there, and like, I don't know, we want to be on Checo because it's his home race, but he could be third.
Does he need the extra grid position? Yeah. Yep.
Maybe.
That's a smarter way to look at it. I mean, like, you're
it's a
pretty
100-point swing.
Yeah, like, you're like, what's the actual probability and value in having Max not finish the race? And like, it's so small that it doesn't, like, that's, you get that without Max bet, you get that to some degree. And you have to have him come in on the podium in order to win, obviously, the 2-car bet, but it's just so marginal that he's not gonna. I mean, you get an extra position.
You could you go even further and just go Checo podium, and then like, if we're saying, hey, if something happens to Max, that could be a massive flyer that you don't lose both.
How much?
Or they don't hedge each other.
What's the difference there?
I don't know. Just pick a podium like. I know.
Well, what's the Checo podium? What's Checo podium? It was like plus one.
Minus 175.
What's minus
175? Checo podium, yeah.
Fuck.
Or you can get minus 138 if you have both Red Bulls. Or we were plus 137 for Checo to be second. How much better do you feel about being able to get him in third? Or does that not matter to you? He's either in second and on the podium or not on the podium. What I like about the top two is that he is starting in 5th. He's not in 13th or 9th, where we've seen him start before, where he might just get capped at the podium.
Yeah. So, like, I have to. So he starts behind Checo. So, like, Lewis is the wild card, I think, for me here. So how does, like, Checo ends up getting, like, why do the Ferraris end up falling back when turn 1 is the real passing point? Like, Red Bull DRS is the answer on the straights. And then it's just like,
I've been waiting for the weeds, but
yeah,
we can dip into it. Max is on the clean side.
I know.
Carlos is on the dirty side.
You think he'll have the lead after lap 1?
On lap 1. Dude, it's 800 meters into the first turn. With the straight line speed. I get it that Ferrari lights their tires up, but they don't. That's 800 meters before they get to use them. They're not going into a corner where they have more grip into turn 1. This is just straight line speed off the line, like Max. I mean, I won't throw out my weeds lines. I'll save them, but I think Carlos drops a spot on turn 1 before we even get to that straight.
Yeah, I can see that. But
I think Ricciardo also does so. Like, there's no way that AlphaTauri is going to fire up with a Red Bull and a Merc behind him, and he's on the dirty side.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess the problem is that those, like, the Red Bull and the Merc, just generally from, again, a tire activation perspective, are not on balance comparable to the Mercedes. I don't think that matters
as much. I don't think it matters as much when it's a straight off the line. They're not seeing who can break the latest into turn 1 because their tires are warm. It'll help a little bit with traction off the clutch, but then it's 800 meters. This is just Max. They're all full throttle at some point, and then his car's straight up just faster, and it's on the grid line.
And you get a slipstream. Like, I mean, I understand.
And Checo follows him through.
Yeah. So what do you?
Well, I've got a few in that. I'll throw the weeds out there. Maybe we'll pop out of the weeds. I have Max to lead lap 1 at plus 300.
Yeah, that's interesting.
He's done it, I think, a couple of times in the past where he started third and just like led lap one. That was one. I also liked Ricciardo fifth or worse after the first lap. That's minus 138. That was the minus money Ricciardo line I told you.
I actually like that. I like that bet too. Okay, so two things. Those are really interesting bets. I like them both. Like I would be remiss if we didn't take the plus 300. So, like, why does that bet exist? Lead after lap one. Like, you want to take somebody who's obviously not leading to be leading after lap one to make that bet really stick and hit. There's no.
It's plus 250 now. It's dropped. It's dropped while we've been talking.
Yeah, there is no reason. Like, there's no better reason to take it at this race, in these conditions.
There's no better race.
The only downside is that it's the Ferraris that are in front, but I don't know if that actually, like you just talked about, I don't know if that really matters all that much.
I think it matters less when it's just a massive straight off the line.
I agree, and you've got, again, just two cars that you could say are comparable in straight line speed. One driver who's starting on the grippy side of the track that gets the slipstream.
Dude, they were joking in their post race about trading spots.
Yeah.
Max goes, "You want to trade with me, Carlos?" Because Carlos was complaining. He's like, "I thought Max was gonna get P2 and I'd be P3. I would have preferred that."
Yeah.
And Max is like, "You want to trade?" Carlos is like, "I'm actually thinking about it. Like, can we?" Like, Max is gonna lead. He's gonna be ahead of Carlos by the time they're in third gear, and then it's just him racing Charles for turn one.
I just like the bet because
I actually really like these both. It's just like there's no
reason. Like, there would be no other race that you would want to take exactly third place to be in first. Like, these are the conditions in which you want to make this bet. So if it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit.
The most favorable track. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm interested in that.
And it's not just any third place. I might have looked at Lewis in third place, but it's Max Verstappen in his Red Bull in third place.
It's a very interesting bet.
Max has one set of new mediums. Leclerc, yeah, both Ferraris do. Okay. Just checking. What about the Ricciardo? Because I think that's guaranteed to happen for a number of reasons. He starts in fourth, so I'm saying he loses one spot on lap one. He's on the dirty side. Checo's on the clean side right behind him. Lewis is behind him.
These are also good.
He's not really in form. Like, he looks good, dude, but he was just injured. He's been back for one race. This is the start where everything's hectic. Also, I expect this where Max he moves forward, and now it's Max, Ferrari. There's three cars. They're three wide in front of Ricciardo. He's going to be like, I got no lane. Oh, shit, Checo and Lewis just passed me.
He might be like that. He might be exactly like that.
Minus 138. I think that's what's going to happen.
I'm actually interested in that. I guess this is where you got to take what they give you, but
is it crazy though?
First lap bets? Is it crazy?
Two turn one bets?
It's fucking nuts, dude. It's a crazy thing to do.
But it's like, again, everything we just talked about how so much more can happen before turn one, and now he's out of place. Let's call a spade a spade. Ricciardo doesn't deserve to be in fourth.
No, he's not. He's out of place based on the conditions that happen in qualifying. I mean, I
think he gets overwhelmed.
Buddy, mark it down. I'm interested in that. I'm 100% interested in that.
Okay, I got it marked down. That's 4 bets with stars on them if we do both first laps.
Okay. So then you've got
2 are plus 137, a minus 138, and a plus 300.
Okay, those are interesting. Let's just keep going here. So the lead after lap. Number team. So lead after lap 10, Red Bull is minus 188. I mean, that's kind of interesting if we think what's going to happen is going to happen. I don't know if we want to double down too much on that.
Oh. Well, max lead lap 5 is plus 200 instead of 250.
Early. It's too early. Yeah, we can't the lap 5.
No, I have them marked at lap 1.
I know. That's the
plus 250 is lap 1.
Yeah.
But I'm saying let's just take lap 5 at 200 instead of 250 for lap 1.
Let's just take lap 10 at minus 188. Red Bull, both Red Bulls. Checo could be there too. Let's just do that.
I think we're leaving value. And it happens early. He's in third place. He's gonna lead lap 1. But I'm saying for 50 points, you just take 5. We're not to make it a minus bet. We're gonna go all the way down.
Do we think is there a chance that Checo's leading? No, there's no way that he's leading.
No.
do we take plus 200 for lap 5 for both of them, or is it plus 250 for Max?
I'm only looking at Max. I don't know. I'm not looking at both. It was 250 for 1 and 200 for 5 for Max.
Man, we just these are crazy bets to be making, but
They're the same odds to get Checo. So in that sense, yeah, you take both. Or
yeah,
we don't
they're
need
the
that.
same. They're the same.
Same odds, yeah. I do really like the Ricardo. Maybe that's the one. It's a
I
fade.
do.
It's a little more fun.
I like that one too. I really do like that one. Because that's just Checo getting him from the grippy side of the track, right? You said fifth or worse, right?
That could be all that is. Yeah, fifth or worse.
I love that.
Let alone you get him like crashing.
Man, that's a really good bet, actually. It's a really good bet.
What do we want to
Like,
do about
I'm-
Max? Check the Ricardo's in. That's a star. That we're doing that for sure. But I'm being cognizant again. We're an hour. Race is 4 hours away. Less than 4 hours away.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to. It's tough to. I don't want to rush it.
And lines, if lines are moving now, because people are. I know, but do you think you could talk through your thoughts out loud if I went to pee?
Yep. Go do
Can
what you got to
entertain
do.
the people.
Yeah, we
Okay,
can just
talk
cut
through
it.
your
It's
thoughts.
not a big
I'll
deal.
be right back. that was also race is coming up. Also, Chaps has to pee.
Yeah, he's got to pee. Combination point of finish.
Okay, come back. He's
Danny-
not talking. Sorry,
And-
I'm
end
so
of-
sorry for putting everyone through that.
My God, just silence. End of first lap position for Danny's plus 100, fifth or worse. What do you have? Why do you have it like minus money? You said.
Come on, I had 138 minus 138.
That's not a good sign. People are just dumb. People are actually maybe that is a good sign because I don't agree with what people think is going to happen.
Why?
So.
He's the fan favorite. Yeah, he's the fan favorite. Everyone's gonna dump on. Oh, Danny Ricciardo. He's
People
probably
think
getting
gonna
podium
be
money.
fourth or better. I think you might have just written down the wrong odd. I think you wrote it down as minus
There's no way.
138.
Let me look again.
Plus 100, yeah. Fifth or worse is plus 100.
No, it was minus 138. Ricardo
it's
fifth or worse.
Fourth
That's
or
what it
better.
was.
Okay, that's sick. I don't. That's awesome that just moved in a good direction for us.
That usually doesn't happen for us.
No, it does not.
Fifth or worse. There was also way more options before. Like you could bet on him to be second, or you could bet on, like there was just more per person. Weird.
Yeah, here's a crazy bet. Here's a crazy bet.
Okay.
Perhaps.
We don't
Crazy
have
bet.
enough crazy here.
Yeah. Race handicap Lewis Hamilton to finish within 16
Mm-hmm.
seconds of the leader, plus 500. So that would have been. I mean, he obviously did that with a lot of things. He was massively advantaged in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like this. I'm thinking about this more. Like I
That's a
think
weird one.
Max is probably going to smash.
I don't know. The winning margins have been coming down though, but that's specifically Lewis.
The winning, yeah, specifically Lewis. The winning margin came down because they had to run their car higher, and Lewis was cheating essentially.
Yeah, he was
I like
also
that.
cheating.
He was also cheating, right? It's hard. It's hard.
Although
to,
the bets
and
settled while he was still a cheater.
I know,
That's just how it works in this sport.
Yeah. So oh god, he ran his car lower than anybody possibly could, and he damaged the plank, which means he was generating more downforce than obviously the Red Bull was, which had to run the car higher. Max was also dealing with the braking issue. Don't talk to him under the braking. Fucking GP, honestly.
Oh my God, JGP.
Nah, never mind. I don't like it.
What do you like? What's in your head that we have right now? Because I've written down, but what are you like? What are we on?
I don't know. My head is swimming right now.
Yeah, right. This is tough. I like the Albon top 10.
I like the Albon top 10 too. Yeah, I like the Albon top 10.
I I really like Ricardo fifth or worse.
I like that as
Lap
well.
one.
I really like that as well. These are crazy
Those are
bets.
two.
These are crazy
Those are
bets,
two.
yeah. Yep, I like those
Those
bets
are the
too.
only two I really like. Then I also have the Max to lead lap 5, and Checo without Max was starred. We talked a lot around that Checo without Max, but the one I starred was plus 137.
Yeah, the more we talked about it, the more I would be interested in seeing seeing the extra grid position for him,
Yeah.
right?
And I'd go, if we're like, we don't have a really short line here, I'd say we just go Checo podium. Forget about Max. It's minus 175 unless it's changed. Podium finish. Minus 175.
Yep. Do you just
Get
like
him 1, 2, or 3. Doesn't matter. You don't need
do-
Max in there. You don't need Lewis or Sainz or
Okay,
Charles
so
with them.
why don't we just do the minus 163 Max to lead after lap 10 and win the race? Do that, like have that in there too.
No, because then you lose the Max could. I don't know. It is Mexico. They didn't bring a new engine for him this week. Like the and win the race.
To lead after
If
lap.
we're,
Well, then,
in my
yes.
opinion, if we're gonna be on Max to lead, let's take lap 1. But the value suggests just do 5 then for 50 points. But for me, it's like just jump on him for everything we said. He's on the clean side. He's led from third here before.
Yeah, but doesn't okay? I'm more like what? Like we need to win the bet. So if we just say leader after lap number team, and we just take both Red Bulls at minus 188. So what you had plus 200 to minus 188, right? So I know it's a big
Yeah.
swing, but it's just like you get
It's
what
almost
you
400 points.
what you get there. Okay, hold on.
But you also have to win for that bet, right?
No. This is just leader after lap number.
Oh.
Yeah. I agree with you. Fuck. Leader after lap number team. Yeah, so the plus 200, you do it after 5. You have all the reasons
Yeah.
that you said.
Like if we're yeah.
But I'm like, I'm interested
If that's
in
going to be on the card, it doesn't have to be. Checo podium, Albon points, Ricardo a bad first lap, and Verstappen a good first lap or good first 5. Or you just go 3. Checo podium, Albon points, and Ricardo bad first lap. I wouldn't hate those 3.
I wouldn't hate those 3 either, actually.
You know, diversity's good, but there's a lot of cases where we have a fourth bet that we kind of force on, and then that's the one that loses.
Well, I'm saying if I was going to do a fourth bet, I would just take the Red Bulls to be leading after lap 10 at minus 188, and then you just spread it out amongst those 4 bets. Because
Here's another counterpoint for you. I'm not saying
Sure.
no. Another counterpoint. If
Yeah.
we've seen this. We're seeing this. If Max doesn't get it early, he's fine to just sit there for 20 laps. Like if he doesn't get it on 1 or 5, if it's not, I got a great start. Now I'm just going to run away with this race.
I agree. No, I completely agree. So then you just what you're doing though is you're just talking.
Like this would be
yourself out of
Monza
that.
again with that straight. He
Yeah,
just
no,
sits
and
there
that's
for 15 laps.
It's entirely possible. Like, and it is a very similar situation in a lot of ways, right? Like, I mean, it's not.
How long did he take to last week? He just sat there in 6 for like 10 laps.
Okay,
But I
I'm
very
looking at
much see him doing it early.
I mean, so how about this? Like, we're advantaged by him doing that anyway. Like, we want Checo podium. Max getting in there, getting his elbows out, is good for us. Like, I kind of like the fact that it does break up the Ferrari 1-2 early. Helps us with the Checo bet. So I'm happy to root for it.
If Checo gets signs.
Checo could get
in
signs
turn
too.
one.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
We don't have to force the flyer.
No, we don't. We don't have to. We should.
Or if you
we
want to
shouldn't.
force a flyer, then we do a long shot podium combo or something.
Nah, no. Because there isn't value. Like, there in all the combination tricasts or the straight tricasts, like, there's no. Well, maybe the plus 750 for Max, Sergio, and Lewis, I guess, is like kind of like the one that I would look at.
Max, Checo, Lewis, yeah.
Plus 750 straight.
Straight. It's interesting. It's only plus 750 straight?
Yeah.
That seems so low. Why can't I see? Oh, there. Straight TriCast. I was confused. Plus 750 is good. I'll do that. I was totally
That's the
confused.
one.
I was, yeah.
Like, it's that or Leclerc, and like that's not the bet.
No, then I'd rather go the flyer on Lewis.
Okay. Okay, so then let's have that as a flyer then. Plus 750.
Max, Checo, Lewis.
Yeah. Right.
Both Ferraris fall away.
We just end up taking it, but at least we're taking it in a flyer fade, like,
It's a $50, yeah.
yeah, right, like, so.
Okay. It's a weird week. Like, neither of us are jumping for joy right now.
No, we're doing. I like that we've got some. Like, I like the Ricardo. We're finding what we think is value in some really weird places, but it's just tough to. Like, so we're taking advantage of. Okay, I like the Albon bet because they looked good all weekend, and then what you just have poor luck in terms of timing and like millimeters and track limits, and now we're trying to acknowledge that and take advantage of it from his position in 14. I like the Checo bet because you've got momentum. You made a really good point of the fact that he's probably getting on top of the car now because they haven't continued to develop it. He's in his home race. It's a rear limited race. He's very comfortable here. He's got a track record of driving well, and it's the best car that he's been in.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that bet. I like the Ricardo bet because of the first lap disadvantage that he's at being on the dirty side of the track and the fact that he's got literally the Red Bulls around him.
Yep. Sandwiched.
So, like, those are three good bets. Like, and then we just have this feeling that Lewis Hamilton is going to be involved to some degree and the Ferraris won't be. And we don't want to really aggressively fade the Ferraris because it's obviously Vegas sees like it's completely feasible that Leclerc hangs on to a podium from first here.
Sure.
Because of how difficult it is to pass, which makes sense. But on the off chance that something does happen, Lewis is going to be there to clean up the mess, and a plus 750, it seems worth it. So I actually feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about the logic there.
Dude, Checo among the top teams, I just saw this now. He's the only one with 2 sets of new medium tires.
I like that too.
New mediums, yeah.
New mediums, okay. I like that too.
Okay, straight TriCast. Yep,
yeah,
that's in.
Okay, so let me plug these in. So the shortest of them all is what's the shortest of them all? Is it the Checo bet?
Checo at minus 175.
Checo podium.
The rest are plus money. Well, one's even money.
Podium finish. Checo. Okay, then we're gonna move to. It's not Danny. It's the. Is it Albon?
Danny's, Danny's even
Danny.
money
Danny,
plus 100.
First, yeah, that's right. So end of first lap position. Danny fifth or worse is plus 100. Then Albon.
And then
points.
Albon's plus 138.
Points finish Albon plus 138. Plus 137 actually.
Is it?
And
Nice.
and then the straight. Straight TriCast.
It's plus 750.
Plus 750.
That's the easy one. $50.
50, so 950 left. Okay, so let's let's not hinder ourselves here.
No. This is weird, but the most likely here with the least risk feels to me to be Ricardo. Maybe because it doesn't need the whole race of performance and survivability and reliability. I see zero ways that Ricciardo goes forward on lap 1. And like he loses one grid spot for sure, right?
I agree with you. I don't know if it means that it's worth betting more on it, but it's an interesting theory. I mean, like, this is
most risky out of the 3 feels like Albon.
Most risky of the 3 feels like Albon, and it's the longest odds, so I agree with that, yeah. So then, why don't we
So if that loses, let's make sure that the Ricciardo covers that. Maybe that's what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Whatever we put on Albon, let's make sure it's covered by Ricciardo. And then Checo's the bulk.
So is this, well, do you want to do, like, if you like...
I like Danny the most. Like, is that 400 just to start somewhere?
Well, I punched, so 375, or is Checo's got to be more than... Okay, so if you hit... So at 375, so if, let's say Danny right away loses, that would just be so sick, just hitting 750 right off the bat. So I had Albon at 200 and Checo at 375 pay out essentially, well, pays out more than 1,000, just over.
Just if those 2 hit.
Yeah, just if those 2 hit.
And we lose the other 2.
And we lose the other 2. So that's probably the way to do it, is like we're trying to net 1,000 from those 2 hitting, right?
That would break even if those 2 hit.
That's the way to do it, right?
Okay.
Because then you have a flyer. Your flyers are Danny at the beginning of the race and then the TriCast at the end of the race.
That makes sense because those are race totality bets. Those are our bets.
Yeah.
That's where we break even. And then we've got a couple like, hey, lap 1 and hey, we're going to guess the podium. Exactly.
The podium at the end. So it's
okay.
It's minus 175.
So what is it?
So it's 375 on Checo.
Okay.
At minus 175. Then 375 on Danny at plus 100. 200 on Albon at plus 137. And then 50 on the TriCast.
What's the total if it all hits?
The total is 2,200.
I like that.
And it can happen. And
it can all happen. Yeah.
It can
all
happen,
3 of these,
right?
all 4 of these can hit.
Yeah.
In fact, they kind of help each other.
They do.
Like get Danny out of the way.
Yeah.
Let
really
Lewis up there.
Yeah.
And we've avoided the Ferrari, so now I'm going to say it. Ferrari's going to blow up tomorrow. We're too high in the sky.
I hope so.
It's too high in the sky. The engine's turned up too much.
It's just too high in the sky. It's too high in the sky.
All right, buddy.
That would help. Okay, I'm gonna punch
tomorrow.
You in, okay?
I ended the show with tomorrow. Today.
Today. Whatever.
It's in a couple hours.
Literally in a few hours.
Hey, by the time this is out, it's now. Enjoy the race.
Yeah, enjoy. Okay. All right, buddy.
Dun, 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 dun.
It's in.